The silicon supremacy, the crystalline spires of Zerathia Prime pierced the crimson sky like frozen screams, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 dying suns. Within the grand citadel, Emperor Zephyros sat upon his throne of compressed diamond, his silicon-based body humming with electromagnetic energy. The throne room stretched for kilometers, its walls carved from single pieces of living quartz that pulsed with the Empire's heartbeat. General Obsidian Krell stood at attention before his emperor, his metallic form gleaming with the pride of 5 centuries of conquest. His body was a masterwork of crystalline evolution, sharp angles and geometric perfection that could cut through steel with a gesture. Behind him, arranged in perfect formation, stood the War Council of the Zerathian Empire, each member a unique crystal formation representing different conquered worlds. My Emperor, Krell's voice resonated like grinding gemstones. The 500th world has fallen to our might. The carbon-based vermin of Sector 7 dissolved within hours of our arrival. Their screams were most satisfying. Emperor Zephyros nodded, his ruby-red optical sensors glowing with approval. For half a millennium, the Zerathian Empire had expanded across the galaxy using the most perfect weapon ever discovered: water. The simple molecule H2O was death incarnate to any carbon-based life form, and the galaxy was filled with such inferior beings. Tell me of our latest conquest, the Emperor commanded, his voice creating harmonic frequencies that made the crystal wall sing. Lieutenant Quartzine stepped forward, her amethyst body sparkling as she accessed the databanks embedded in her consciousness. The Sector 7 inhabitants called themselves the Verdanian Republic, 3 billion plant-based entities living on a world rich with organic compounds. A single hydrobomb eliminated their capital city. The remaining population surrendered within 6 solar cycles. The War Council murmured their approval. It was always the same story: terror, destruction, submission. Water was the perfect weapon because it was everywhere yet deadly to everything that lived. The Zerathians had discovered this truth centuries ago when they first encountered biological life forms. A few drops of H2O could dissolve flesh, while a concentrated blast could vaporize entire armies. Professor Gemstone, the Empire's chief scientist, activated a holographic display showing their latest conquests. My Emperor, our water-based weapons, have achieved 100% efficiency across 500 worlds. No carbon-based species has ever survived direct exposure to our hydro bombs. The formula remains perfect. Locate target world, deploy water weapons, harvest resources, establish crystal colonies. Excellent, Emperor Zephyros replied. Continue the expansion. I want the entire outer rim under our control before the next crystal harvest. Just then, the massive doors of the throne room burst open with a sound like shattering mountains. Captain Flintstone stumbled in, his obsidian body flickering with stress fractures that indicated extreme agitation. The crystal formations that comprised his face were twisted in an expression of impossible confusion. My Emperor, Flintstone cried, dropping to one knee with a crash that echoed through the chamber. I bring news from the far rim that defies all logic. General Krell's form darkened with annoyance. Captain, you forget protocol. Explain yourself. Flintstone raised his head, his optical sensors cycling through different light spectrums as if trying to process what he had witnessed. My lord, I have discovered a world that should not exist. A planet covered in water. 71% of its surface is pure H2O, yet it teems with carbon-based life. The throne room fell silent. The only sound was the harmonic humming of the crystal walls, now discordant with confusion. Impossible, Professor Gemstone stated flatly. No carbon-based organism can survive in the presence of water. Our tests have been conclusive across 500 worlds. That's what I thought, Flintstone replied, his voice cracking like stressed stone. But I observed it with my own sensors. The creatures call themselves humans, and they not only survive in water, they live with it constantly. Their cities are built alongside vast oceans. They travel on the surface of liquid water in metal vessels. Most shocking of all, they deliberately immerse their bodies in H2O for recreation. Emperor Zephyros leaned forward on his throne, his form beginning to glow with dangerous energy. You are telling me that biological entities swim in our ultimate weapon? Yes, my emperor. I watch them dive beneath the water's surface and emerge unharmed. They splash it on their bodies, consume it regularly, and show no fear of it whatsoever. They have somehow developed complete immunity to H2O toxicity. Lieutenant, Quartzine processed this information through her analytical matrices. My lord, if such beings exist, they could pose a significant threat to the Empire. Our entire military doctrine is based on water superiority. General Krell's form began to pulse with aggressive energy patterns. Threat? These soft creatures? Present no threat. They have simply never faced a proper water bombardment. A few hydro bombs will clear up this mystery quickly enough. Emperor Zephyros stood from his throne, his massive crystalline form casting rainbow shadows across the chamber. General Krell, you will take the 7th Fleet to this Earth and demonstrate the power of the Zerathian Empire. Show these humans what real warfare looks like. It will be my honor, my Emperor, Krell replied, his cutting edges gleaming with anticipation. How many humans should I expect to face? Captain Flintstone consulted his internal records. Approximately 8 billion, my lord, spread across the entire planetary surface. 8 billion? Krell laughed, a sound like a landslide of precious stones. My lord, a single hydro bomb can eliminate millions. This conquest will be completed within one solar cycle. Professor Gemstone activated additional displays showing the Empire's water-based arsenal. General, I recommend using our newest hydro torpedoes. Each contains enough concentrated H2O to dissolve an entire city. The psychological impact will be devastating. Approved, Emperor Zephyros declared. But Krell, I want this conquest recorded for our archives. Let it serve as a reminder to any species that might question our supremacy. Show the galaxy what happens when biological entities forget their place. Within hours, General Krell's fleet of 50 crystal warships departed Zerathia Prime. Each vessel was a masterwork of silicon engineering, their faceted hulls reflecting starlight in patterns that could blind unprotected observers. The flagship, Shard of Destiny, led the formation with its cargo of devastating water weapons. As they traveled through hyperspace, Krell studied the intelligence Captain Flintstone had gathered. The images of Earth were disturbing in their impossibility. Vast, blue oceans that should have been graveyards were instead teeming with life. Cities sparkled along coastlines where nothing should have been able to survive. Most troubling were the images of humans engaged in water-based activities, swimming, boating, even diving to significant depths. General, his communications officer, reported, "We're receiving transmissions from the target world. The humans appear to be aware of our approach." "Let them tremble," Krell replied. "Open a channel. I will offer them the traditional opportunity to surrender." The main screen flickered to life, showing a human face. The creature had smooth, soft features and small optical sensors that showed no crystalline enhancements. It was shockingly primitive in appearance. "Unknown vessels," the human said in surprisingly clear galactic standard. "This is Admiral Neptune Cross of Earth Defense Command. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Krell activated the transmission array. "I am General Obsidian Krell of the Zerathian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have one opportunity to surrender unconditionally." The human called Admiral Cross showed no visible fear. In fact, the creature seemed almost curious. "And if we decline your generous offer? Your planet will be cleansed with hydro weapons," Krell announced with satisfaction. "Every carbon-based life form will be dissolved. Your cities will become crystal mining colonies. This is the fate of all who oppose the Zerathian Empire." To Krell's amazement, Admiral Cross actually smiled, a biological expression he had learned to recognize as indicating pleasure or amusement. "General, did you just threaten to attack us with water?" The question caught Krell off guard. "Yes, the most destructive force in the galaxy. Liquid H2O deployed in concentrated bombardments." The human's smile widened. "I see. Well, General, I think there might be some confusion here. Humans are roughly 60% water ourselves. We drink it, swim in it, and use it for everything from hygiene to agriculture. Are you seriously planning to attack the only species in the galaxy that has mastered water? The transmission ended, leaving Krell staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crystal officers stood in confused silence. "Sir," his weapons officer reported nervously, "we're now in attack range of Earth." Krell looked out at the blue marble floating in space before them. Something felt wrong about this entire situation, but he had his orders. The Zarathian Empire had never failed, and today would be no different. "Deploy hydrobombs," he commanded. "Target their largest population centers. Let's see how well they handle real water weapons." The crystal ships released their deadly payload, massive bombs filled with weaponized water that had destroyed 500 worlds. Krell watched through his sensors as they descended toward Earth's surface, trailing vapor as they fell through the atmosphere. The first bomb struck what the humans called the Pacific Ocean. Krell expected to see coastal cities dissolved, millions of beings screaming as they melted away. Instead, the weapon simply disappeared into the vast expanse of water with barely a splash. "What?" Krell stared at his readings. "That's impossible." More bombs struck oceans, lakes, and rivers around the planet. Each time, the deadly weapons were absorbed harmlessly into existing water systems. No explosions, no spreading death clouds, no dissolved cities, just water joining more water. "Sir," his communications officer called out urgently, "I'm detecting massive movement from the planet's surface." The main screen showed something that made every crystal being aboard freeze in terror. Ships were rising from Earth's oceans, not just a few vessels, but hundreds of them. Massive warships emerged from beneath the water's surface like leviathans awakening from ancient slumber. "Impossible," Krell whispered. They were hiding underwater? Before he could process this revelation, the human ships opened fire, but instead of energy weapons or missiles, they launched concentrated streams of water. The same H2O that should have been their doom became their weapon of choice. The first water cannon struck Krell's flagship with devastating force. The pressurized stream punched through the crystal hull like it was made of brittle glass. Inside, crystal crew members dissolved instantly as weaponized water flooded their compartments. "They're using our own weapon against us," his tactical officer screamed before his crystalline form crumbled under a cascade of H2O. More human ships emerged from the depths, their weapon systems drawing directly from Earth's infinite oceans. The space around the planet became a shooting gallery, with water streams slicing through crystal warships like cosmic chainsaws. Krell managed to reach an escape pod just as his flagship disintegrated. As the pod ejected, he looked back to see his entire fleet under assault by impossible enemies, beings who rode through space on streams of liquid death, who turned the galaxy's most feared weapon into their greatest strength. The 50 ships of the 7th Fleet were gone within minutes, dissolved by the very substance they had brought to destroy their enemies. As Krell's pod drifted in the void, he realized with growing horror that the Zarathian Empire had just encountered the one species in the galaxy that could turn their ultimate weapon against them. Emperor Zephyros would not be pleased. The deluge of vengeance Admiral Neptune Cross stood on the bridge of the USS Tsunami, watching the holographic displays that showed debris from 50 Zarathian warships drifting through Earth's orbital space. The crystal fragments caught sunlight, like scattered diamonds, beautiful and deadly reminders of humanity's first contact with a galactic empire that had underestimated the power of water. "Admiral," Captain Torrent McKay called from the engineering station, his weathered face grim with concentration. "Deep space sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in the Zarathian home systems. Whatever we just did to them, they're not taking it well." Cross nodded, turning to face Director Cascade Williams, who had just arrived from Earth's newly established Planetary Defense Command. Williams was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who had spent decades preparing for humanity's eventual contact with hostile alien species, though she had never imagined water would be their greatest weapon. "Director, what's our current defensive status?" Cross asked. "The Global Defense Initiative is fully operational," Williams replied. accessing data from her neural interface. Every major naval base, submarine fleet, and coastal installation is now part of our integrated defense network. The Poseidon project exceeded all expectations. We can now channel Earth's entire ocean system into our weapon arrays. Engineer McKay pulled up schematics of their latest innovations. Admiral, you need to see what we've accomplished in the past 72 hours. The water-based propulsion systems are revolutionary. Our ships can now surf through space on pressurized H2O streams, reaching velocities that make traditional engines obsolete. The main screen displayed footage of human vessels emerging from Earth's oceans during the recent battle. The ships moved with fluid grace, their hulls designed to channel water through sophisticated pump systems that could generate devastating pressure streams or provide incredible acceleration. The beauty of it, McKay continued enthusiastically, is that we have an unlimited ammunition supply. Every ocean, every lake, every river on Earth is now part of our weapons system. The aliens brought water guns to fight the ocean itself. Cross smiled grimly at the engineer's assessment. Humanity had always been adaptable, but this situation demanded innovation on an unprecedented scale. Within hours of the first Zarathian attack, Earth's greatest minds had collaborated to transform their relationship with water from simple coexistence to absolute mastery. Sir, Communications Officer Lieutenant Reef reported urgently. We're receiving priority transmissions from deep space monitoring stations. The Zarathians are assembling something massive. The bridge fell silent as everyone turned to the main display. The images were staggering. Thousands upon thousands of crystal ships gathering in formation across multiple star systems. The fleet, stretched for light years, a glittering armada of geometric death that dwarfed anything in recorded galactic history. How many? Director Williams asked quietly. Current count exceeds 200,000 vessels, Lieutenant Reef replied. Her voice barely steady. Intelligence suggests this represents the entire military force of the Zarathian Empire. Meanwhile, on Zarathia Prime, Emperor Zephyros paced through his crystal war chamber in a rage that made the entire citadel tremble. His silicon form blazed with electromagnetic fury as he processed the impossible reports from General Krell's failed mission. The throne room's crystal walls showed stress fractures from the Emperor's emotional resonance. Explain to me, Zephyros roared at the assembled war council, how 50 of our finest warships were destroyed by creatures that bathe in our ultimate weapon. Supreme Marshal Granite stepped forward, his massive basalt form radiating calm authority. Unlike the other crystal beings, Granite was ancient, formed from compressed stone and mineral accretions that had witnessed the Empire's rise from a single world to galactic dominance. My Emperor, Granite's voice rumbled like tectonic plates shifting. General Krell's failure demonstrates that we underestimated these humans. They have somehow achieved symbiosis with water rather than vulnerability to it. Symbiosis? Professor, Gemstone interjected, his crystalline mind processing the implications. My lord, if these beings can manipulate H2O as effectively as our reports suggest, they represent a fundamental threat to our expansion doctrine. Emperor Zephyros turned his burning optical sensors toward his chief scientist. Are you suggesting that 5 centuries of conquest can be undone by water-swimming primitives? Not undone, my emperor, but certainly challenged. Our entire military philosophy is based on water superiority. If we face an enemy that has weaponized H2O more effectively than ourselves, we must adapt, or adaptation is weakness. Zephyros interrupted, his form flaring with destructive energy. The Zarathian Empire does not adapt to inferior species. They adapt to us, or they are destroyed. Supreme Marshal Granite accessed strategic databases embedded in his consciousness. My Emperor, I propose assembling the Grand Armada, every crystal ship in the Empire united under single command. 200,000 vessels carrying enough firepower to shatter planets. And our weapon strategy? The Emperor demanded. Abandon water-based attacks entirely, Granite replied. We use kinetic bombardment, plasma cannons, gravity weapons, and quantum destabilizers. If water is their strength, we attack with everything, except H2O. Back on Earth, Admiral Cross stood in the newly constructed Aquatic Command Center, a facility built into the Mariana Trench that could coordinate defensive operations across all of Earth's water systems. The command center was a marvel of human engineering, an underwater city that drew power from thermal vents and processed seawater into weapons-grade hydro-ammunition. Status report, Cross ordered as he surveyed the massive holographic displays, showing global defense preparations. Director Williams activated multiple data streams. Every major population center now has water-based shield generators. The Pacific Defense Grid is operational. We can create pressurized water barriers around the entire planet. The Atlantic Fleet has been equipped with deep space hydro cannons that can engage targets at lunar distances. Engineer McKay joined them, his excitement barely contained. Admiral, the breakthrough came when we realized water's phase change properties. We can flash freeze H2O into ice projectiles, superheat it into plasma streams, or maintain it as liquid for maximum penetration. The aliens think they understand water, but they've never seen what happens when H2O becomes a weapon of science, rather than just chemistry. The main display showed Earth's transformed appearance. Massive water processing facilities rose from every ocean, their crystalline domes, ironically similar to Zerathian architecture, housing the hydro weapon systems that could defend the planet. Orbital platforms surrounded Earth like a constellation of water-based defense satellites. The most impressive development, Williams continued, is the Luna Base project. We've established water mining operations on the Moon and are using ice deposits to create forward defensive positions. When the Zerathians arrive, they'll face a solar system where every body of water has become a weapons platform. 3 days later, the Zerathian Grand Armada arrived at Earth's solar system. Supreme Marshal Granite commanded from his flagship, Obsidian Emperor, a crystal dreadnought the size of a small moon. The armada stretched across space in perfect geometric formations, a galaxy-spanning display of crystalline military might that had never known defeat. All ships report ready for planetary bombardment, Granite's tactical officer announced. 200,000 vessels armed with non-water-based weapons systems. Excellent, Granite replied. These humans mastered water, but they remain biological. Plasma fire and kinetic bombardment will reduce their world to cosmic dust. As the Armada approached Earth's outer defensive perimeter, they encountered something unprecedented. The space around Earth wasn't empty. It was filled with water. Massive hydro platforms orbited the planet like artificial rings, each one drawing from ice asteroids that humans had redirected from the asteroid belt. What are those structures? Granite demanded. His science officer analyzed the readings. My lord, they appear to be water processing stations. The humans have surrounded their planet with oceans in space. Before Granite could respond, the orbital platforms activated. Streams of pressurized water began intersecting throughout Earth's local space, creating a three-dimensional lattice of liquid barriers. The Zerathian ships found themselves flying through a maze of water walls that could dissolve their crystal hulls on contact. Evasive maneuvers, Granite ordered, but it was too late. Admiral Cross watched from the Aquatic Command Center as Earth's ultimate defense revealed itself. The planet's oceans began to glow with bioluminescent energy as deep-sea generators activated. Water spouts erupted from every major body of water on Earth, shooting into space with enough force to reach the outer atmosphere. Initiate Poseidon. Protocol, Cross commanded. Around the globe, every ocean, lake, river, and reservoir became part of a single coordinated weapon system. Earth itself had become a water cannon of planetary proportions. The spouts converged into massive streams that struck the Zerathian Armada with the combined force of every drop of water on the planet. Supreme Marshal Granite watched in horror as his magnificent fleet dissolved like sugar sculptures in rain. The 200,000 crystal ships, the pride of an empire that had conquered 500 worlds, crumbled under an assault of weaponized H2O delivered with the precision of human engineering and the raw power of planetary-scale hydraulics. Retreat, Granite ordered, but there was nowhere to run. Earth's water weapons had surrounded the Armada completely. Space itself had become an ocean, and the Zerathians were drowning in it. As his flagship began to dissolve around him, Granite sent one final transmission to Emperor Zephyros. My lord, we have found the one species in the galaxy that understands water better than we do. The Empire. The Empire has fallen. On Earth, Admiral Cross stood in the aftermath of humanity's greatest victory. The debris of 200,000 crystal ships formed a spectacular light show as they caught sunlight while falling through Earth's atmosphere. The Zarathian Empire, 5 centuries of galactic conquest, had been defeated in a single battle by the species they had dismissed as primitive water swimmers. Director Williams approached with news from across the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving communications from hundreds of worlds, former Zarathian colonies declaring their independence. The Empire's power was built entirely on fear of their water weapons. Now that fear is gone, Engineer McKay joined them, grinning broadly. Admiral, I've been analyzing the crystal ship debris. Their technology is actually quite advanced in non-water applications. If we can reverse engineer their faster-than-light systems and combine them with our water-based weapons. Cross nodded thoughtfully. Humanity had won more than a battle. They had inherited the infrastructure of a galactic empire. But unlike the Zarathians, humans understood that true strength came not from conquest but from adaptation and cooperation. Begin diplomatic outreach to the liberated worlds, Cross ordered. Let them know that Earth offers alliance, not domination. We'll share our water-based technologies with any species that wants to defend themselves against future threats. As Earth's blue ocean sparkled under alien starlight, humanity stood ready to take its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as the guardians of the galaxy's most precious resource. Water, the substance of life itself.